What's up, everyone? Good morning and welcome to Shaw Local Bears Insider Podcast. I am Kyle Nabors along with Sean Hammond. Sean, checking in with us still here from Washington, D.C. this morning, getting ready to head out to the airport and catch a flight after that Bears win 40-20 over the Washington Commanders last night. Sean, well, let's start with what was that locker room like after the game?
Yeah, I mean, for the first time in almost a year, there was a good vibe in there. The music was blasting right before we walked in, and you could hear it from outside the wall. And man, I think there was just a big sense of relief, especially from a lot of these guys who were here last year. You know, the Darnell Mooney's, Cole Kmet's, Jaquan Briskers of the team. Those guys went through so much, and Justin too. You could see it in his media session, just like the sense of relief. It was finally good to just talk about a win. We got a Bears win for the first time in so long. And
Almost a
um,
full calendar year, October 24th.
honestly, it was just good for these guys to get that monkey off their back.
It felt like it. Um, I think from the outsider perspective, we count 14 wins or 14 straight losses, and it's a punchline, it's aggravating, it's all those things. I can't imagine what it's been like in the locker room though. Um, it's not a fun feeling.
No, and especially coming off that loss on Sunday against Denver. I mean, you thought you had it. That was the end of the streak. It was over. We could move on. And then everything that transpired happened, and you're sitting there with another loss. And really, I do kind of think that like the quick turnaround was exactly what the Bears needed with that Thursday night game. I know that's not always what the coaches want. You don't want to have to turn around and play a team in 4 days, but just to wash their hands of that Denver game and look forward really quickly, I think that may have helped these guys.
I find it interesting you say that because usually I had the exact opposite feeling going into it. I was concerned about the short week. You're coming off that loss, you get no full practices, you're going on the road um, to face a really good defensive front. I expected like I expected the Bears to lose last night, and two, I expected it to be kind of a sloppy game. And we got the exact opposite of that. That's the best the Bears offense has looked in a long time last night.
Well, yeah, and it was mistake free. I mean, that was the big thing. Like you look at the Denver game on Sunday, and really the killer was the fumble return for the touchdown. I mean, that was brutal, and you can't have mistakes like that and expect to win football games. And I think the fact that not only did Justin not throw an interception, not fumble the ball, but really everything was going well for that offense. You're right, Kyle. I mean, it was rolling. It was everything we saw from that Denver game for the first 3 quarters, and it just carried over into the next game. And I was really impressed with the way that Bears offensive line held up, especially in that first half against the Washington front. I mean, those guys got nothing in that first half. I know they played a little bit better in that second half and made it interesting there in late third quarter, early fourth quarter, but that was a really good game from the Bears O line.
Absolutely. It was good to see. I was a little confused when Tevin Jenkins was activated and then didn't start last night. I was like, oh
Mhm.
no, like you need the active roster spot. Don't do this. But at least they started rotating him in. He's going to be a big component to that offensive line moving forward. Um, I mean, the bottom line is the offense last night looked like the offense I think everyone expected coming into the season. Not just last night, really for most of the game on Sunday too against Denver. I mean, this we expected the Bears to be able to put points on the board. Frankly, I expected the Bears to be able to put points on the board in pretty significant bunches with the additions they made across the offense. That's I don't know what else to say other than I mean, this is much more like it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, the fact that you're feeding DJ Moore, that is what we expected to see. And Justin said it last night, but he was surprised by how much one-on-one coverage they were showing against DJ Moore. And I think that's going to signal to defenses all across the league, all the defenses on the schedule coming up, like you can't leave this guy alone. Look what he did. The yards after the catch were insane in that game. You just got to get the ball to DJ Moore. And that's, I mean, that was the offense last night. We could talk about how they did, a lot of good things. The O-line did well. The running game was doing well. Justin, made some nice passes, but get the ball to DJ Moore and just let him do his thing. I mean, sometimes it's not that complicated.
If you're watching live on YouTube this morning, we really appreciate it. Already seeing a bunch of regulars in the chat: CJ, Mr. Shorty, Mike B, a bunch of other people. Mike Johnson checking in. I wonder how long this winning streak lasts. Well, the Bears have a favorable schedule coming up,
There you
and
go.
I mean, if the offense can perform consistently like this, the Bears are going to be in more games. Like this is what I expected from the Bears these last 2 weeks. They're far from a complete team, but this is a type of growth that I think we all expected from the beginning of the season. I'm not sure what took so long for things to mesh, but it certainly appears that they've turned a corner.
Yeah, and look, it helps when you play two of the worst defenses in football. I know that Washington front is really good, but overall, like the secondary has not been as good. And statistically, they're towards the bottom of the league. But I mean, let's celebrate a win while we have a chance to celebrate a win. If you're a Bears fan, I mean, I know that's part of the concern. Like, okay, can they do this against good defenses? But you can't worry about that right now. This is, like you said, Kyle, this is kind of what we expected. This is what we hoped to see from Justin. Kyle, he's got 8 touchdown passes in 4 days. Where did that come from?
I know. All of a sudden, Justin Fields tied for the league lead in touchdown. Now, of course, everyone, I think it's Kirk Cousins he's tied with, and Captain Kirk will probably get a couple this weekend. Quickly, though, I want to get some of the propers out of the way before we get too far into this, Sean. Make sure you follow Sean on X or Twitter, or whatever we want to call it nowadays, at Sean_Hammond. You can also find him on Instagram. You can find myself at Kyle Nabors. You can find all of our content at Bears_Insider. Make sure you go to shawlocal.com. Got everything up for you there on the website right now. Looking forward to getting Mark Silverman's reaction after this win here. Sylvie's been pretty critical of everything that's happened with the Bears so far this season, understandably so. And of course, if you are watching live on YouTube this morning, or if you're you're finding this after, do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, hit the thumbs up. If you are watching later, leave a comment, please. It helps other people find the show. That YouTube algorithm is always pesky, so we appreciate any help you guys can give us there. And we'll try and get to your comments throughout the show. We got Jake Bartleson helping us produce behind the scenes. Jake, thanks for jumping on this morning, man. Sean, how much more confident do you feel in Justin Fields now than you did just a couple weeks ago?
I mean, I don't know how the answer isn't more confident. I mean, yeah, you're definitely feeling more confident in what you saw these last couple of games. I mean, at the same time, like, I don't know, what we saw against Kansas City was what we saw against Kansas City. So you kind of got to take both things and make of it what you will. I still want to see it. Go ahead.
I guess the question, and we're not going to get an answer to this, I don't think, in season, is like how, like, we know that Justin Fields was open about his concerns with the offense, and you have to wonder what adjustments have been made behind the scenes in terms of how they're calling plays, because there certainly has been a shift over these last couple of weeks. It looks more fluid. It looks more natural. It looks like it's supposed to now.
Yeah, and I do think that I'm sure they've had these conversations, especially after Justin said what he said a couple weeks ago. Last week, Robert Tonyan mentioned something similar in terms of just like, playing with a better flow. I forget what the exact quote was. I'd have to go and look it up again. But yeah, I mean, look, you have an offense that has been able to get some momentum. Like those first couple games, you weren't picking up first downs. There was no, if you're not moving the chains, you really don't have a chance to get into a rhythm. And so I think that has been a huge step forward these last 2 weeks. They've been able to get into a rhythm. They've been able to play a lot of snaps. And yes, Mike, that's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, a healthy O-line is a big deal. I mean, you're talking about you finally got Nate Davis back these last 2 games. and with practice time where he's been able to not just throw him in week one like they did with hardly any preparation, and that matters. And now you got Tevin Jenkins coming back. I thought Tevin looked really good last night. Yeah, he was on a snap count. Wasn't going to play the whole game, but he told me he wound up playing a little bit more than he expected because Lucas Patrick went out with a concussion, and he was like, "Yeah, I was okay with that. I was feeling good. We're rolling. I expect we'll see him, moving forward now." And Braxton Jones is getting nearer to his time to return. You could be looking at a healthy Bears O line here in a week or two.
I think maybe we need to consider the fact that we did underestimate the amount of injuries the Bears dealt with in training camp and early on this season. I it's not an excuse. Every team has to deal with it,
Mhm.
and the Bears came out flat unprepared to start this year. But they did deal with some pretty significant, not just injuries, but go back to Nate Davis missing time because of the family issue, the death in the family, stuff like that. You do wonder now that you look at this after a couple weeks of the offense performing better and wondering if they just weren't ready, essentially, which is on the coaching staff. There's plenty of blame to go around still,
Mhm.
but it certainly starting to get that feel.
Well, and we're seeing that across the league too, with teams looking rusty weeks 1, 2, 3, taking a little time to get going. And I don't know about you, Kyle, but watching Khalil Herbert run last night, especially in that first half before he unfortunately he had a little injury there in that second half and missed a chunk of that game. But there had to be a lot of yards before contact for him. I mean, the O line was doing work. He was not getting touched until he was deep into the defense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to bring up something you had in Bear Down Nerd Up this week, talking about Khalil Herbert once again ranking near the top of the league in efficiency, for uh, on the ground at least. And he's not flashy. He struggles in pass protection, but he's Khalil Herbert's just dependable, man. Like that's what it is. I mean, when you look at the David Montgomery, go back to that issue of letting him walk, like it makes
Mhm.
all the sense in the world now when you see once again Khalil Herbert. Like I said, not flashy, but you don't really need that in the NFL.
No, he is one of the analytics will back this up. He is one of the most north-south runners out of all the running backs in the league. He was, I forget exactly if he was top 5 or something like that last year, and he's doing it again. The guy just finds holes and hits them quickly.
Yeah,
And
and he's not gonna break off a bunch of 40, 50 yarders. But when you have a guy that is consistently getting you 4.5 yards a carry, you're putting Justin Fields in a lot of second and medium and third and short situations, and that's just hell for defenses when you have a guy like Justin Fields back there.
and when you get Nate Davis back and fully prepared, and you get Tevin Jenkins back healthy. I mean, those are two really good run blockers on your offensive line. And I think you saw that last night. I mean, those guys were working in that first half.
Well, the first play Tevin Jenkins was in the game, I believe, was a run play, and he was about 4 yards upfield blocking. Like, man, the guy has to stay on the field, but he is an absolute wrecking ball when he plays.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it sucks that he had to miss these first 4 games, especially like he was healthy, throughout much of training camp for the first time in a while, and it was trending that way that he was going to start week 1, and unfortunately that just didn't happen.
Yeah, he's just one of those guys. Unfortunately, that just is having trouble staying on the field early in his career. Hopefully, he'll be able to get back. I think we lost Sean here for a second. Jake, you want to jump on and talk some Bears with me, man? Yeah, there you go,
Sure.
Jake.
How's it going this morning?
Hey, so Jake, everyone here. Jake writes, if you are on shawlocal.com, writes a 3 and out for us every week. Behind the scenes at Soldier Field when the Bears are at home. Jake, what was your perspective last night, man?
I think we got Sean back here quickly. My perspective was, I go back to the first drive of the game, right? Like, you're coming 4 days off, a terrible loss, and there's sports talk radio talking all week about, if the Bears come out flat, what do the Bears do with Matt Eberflus? And to come out with a scoring drive, a touchdown right off the bat, I feel like that just settled everything down, and then it built from there. Obviously, they had to sustain it in the second half, but 27-3 in that halftime, that just had to feel good for them. So, hi, Sean, how are you?
Hey guys, sorry about that. Housekeeping's trying to kick me out here at my hotel. We're good though.
We're good. All right, cool. Let's want to make sure to get a shout out to Ken Nelson Auto Group, proudly serving the Sauk Valley area for over 55 years. Ken Nelson Auto Group offers 10 new vehicle franchises in one convenient location right here in Dixon, Illinois. Shop a great selection of new and pre-owned vehicles at kennelsonauto.com. Sticking with the run game for a little bit there, Sean. Khalil Herbert goes down, tries to come back in last night, was not able to give it a go. The Bears lost Roshan Johnson. We end up with Kari Blasingame carrying the ball, fullback Kari Blasingame. I believe ended up with 8 carries last night. Any updates on those running backs?
No, we'll have to see, what we get over the next few days. No updates really. Obviously, I think Khalil Herbert wouldn't have come back in that game if he didn't feel like he could give it a chance. Obviously, they didn't let him go for very long, but hopefully that's a case where that injury was just one of those ones that looked really bad but wasn't. Because man, on the replay it was gnarly the way his leg bent. But again, he was kind of by himself. He didn't get hit right away, and so we'll have to kind of monitor that. But yeah, that's kind of the risk you take with Dante Foreman being inactive the last few weeks.
Hey, Sean, hold on 1 second. I see Mr. Shorty's in the chat saying that Chase Claypool's traded to the Dolphins for a 6th round draft pick. Trying to pull it up here.
Let me
We're all good.
Let me check the Twitter. Well, that's fun.
Yeah, they're all right.
Look, I didn't know if they would get anything for this guy. So if you're able to get a 6th round draft pick, take it.
When I don't know if you were able to hear or read the comment from Ryan Poles on the radio before the game last night. I think he made it pretty clear that Chase Claypool's time with the Chicago Bears was over.
Wow, yeah. So, okay, Diana Rossini says a 2025 6th round pick from Miami for Claypool and a 2025 7th from the Bears. So it's really a pick swap.
I mean,
I think you got to take what you can get. If he's not going to play for you,
yeah,
take what you can get and move on.
Not sure why the Miami Dolphins did that, but I mean, I guess depth. The only thing I can think there is like, all right, they already got Tyreek Hill, they got Jalen Waddle. Just pick up Chase Claypool and see if you can be the team that unlocks whatever is going on with him and gets him to perform with a couple, already high quality receivers on the roster. I guess, I get the risk. There's not a lot of risk to it, but okay, well, good for the Bears. Good for Ryan Poles to get something. It's going to go down as on the Mount Rushmore of bad decisions by Ryan Poles. So,
yeah,
the initial trade, that is.
It is. You're talking about the 32nd overall pick now turning into a 6th round pick 2 years later. So yeah, this will go down as one of the worst decisions, in his. So it's a short GM tenure at this point. We'll see how long this thing goes. GMs are going to make mistakes, but yeah, that's a tough one, Kyle.
Yeah, and to me, all this does, and we came into the season, you got DJ Moore as your number one. You knew Chase Claypool was in a walk year. You have Darnell Mooney in a walk year. Darnell Mooney last night, 0 receptions on 4 targets. The Bears had a clear game plan to get the ball to DJ Moore. So I don't want to read too much into the Mooney thing, but you are going to need to make a decision this coming off season about your receiving core. How much do you need to upgrade it? It's certainly a setback in terms of trying to get this offense on track that, you brought in Chase Claypool thinking it was a way to not have to invest huge resources into the position with some potential upside. But now you're back to the point where you got to solve wide receiver this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that. You could also say, just throw the ball to DJ Moore. Look what they did last night, Kyle. And I know you need to have multiple guys. Like, you can't just do it with one guy. If DJ, goes down with an injury at some point, then you're in a tough position. It looks like you would be. So yeah, you got to have the depth there. On some level, I kind of get why Miami would do this. Like, yeah, they're a team that already has their established starters. That offense is rolling. I know they just lost to the Bills, but you like a lot of the things that they're doing. Why not take a chance on a guy with these great athletic traits, and see what you can make of it? And really, I mean, that's what Ryan Poles was thinking last year. It's just the asking price was so much more.
Yeah, Mike Johnson says, I think it was worth the gamble, and it's smart that Poles and the Bears cut bait and moved on. Absolutely. I thought it was a good trade at the time when the Bears made it. I'm not going back and trying to, change history and say that he never should have done it. I thought it was a really good move. I liked Chase Claypool come out of college. I liked what we saw early on. Sometimes you just have situations where the talent on the field just doesn't match up with what's going on with the player off the field. Clearly the case here.
Yeah, and it's just unfortunate that, the off the field stuff turned out to be the story. And it's too bad because I'm sure Justin Fields wonders, like, if we could have just got this thing, under control off the field, like, could this have worked? Because I get why there's a team that wants to kick the tires on Chase Claypool. He has the size and the athletic ability to be a really good receiver. Just everything that's gone on, the blocking stuff we saw in week 1, the things he said to the media, it became a distraction. And it's unfortunate that it went this way, but I think at this point, with him not even being on the team, you just had to cut bait and get what you could for him.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, let's go ahead and here, a very proud dad says we probably move up 5 or 6 spots in the draft, but I guess it saves us $2 million. Poles needs to start spending money. I mean, they spent a lot of money in the offseason. They're going to have a good amount of cash again this offseason to spend, though. So,
I mean, they were only about $7 million under the cap for this season before this move. So it's not like they're not spending money.
Yeah. Where do you want to go from here, Sean?
Well, Kyle, I mean, do you want me to get a story up on Chase? What are we thinking here?
Yeah, we probably should here before you hit the road for the airport. But let's spend. Can we spend a couple more minutes here? I want to wrap it up here. We're gonna cut this one a little short, guys, so we can get breaking news up on the website.
I got some writing to do, it seems.
Yeah. But I wanted to ask you about, and that's the crowd here. Do you guys feel that Matt Eberflus was more aggressive last night? Like, was Matt Eberflus coaching for his coaching career last night for the Chicago Bears? Because I kind of got a sense from the beginning that he was just like, screw it. Like, if I'm going down, I'm going down swinging, which is how he should be coaching all the time. But, we don't have time to get all into all the Matt Eberflus stuff, I don't feel like right now.
I mean, I did feel like there were some well-timed blitzes, that affected the quarterback at key moments. And that is a good thing. That's a thing that a lot of us have been saying they need to do. I also will point out that Sam Howell is getting sacked by every single defense he faces. I mean, that dude is just giving up sacks at a crazy clip right now.
God, and the Bears probably should have had another 3 last night. I mean, Howell snuck out of several of them. Mike B says Eberflus was aggressive, then he stopped mid-game and let Washington back in. Then he flipped the switch back, thankfully. Yeah, I think that's fair to say. listen, I understand it's a 27-3 lead. You don't want to turn the ball over. You don't want to let Washington back in the game. There's got to be a middle ground, though, than what we saw last night in that third quarter, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree. I mean, I think you got to keep playing your game. That's what got you to that point. I think anytime you see a coach ease, not even just a coach, anytime you see a team ease up on the gas pedal a little bit, it's cause for concern because you want to step on their throats when you got a team down like that. And I know that it didn't end up mattering. They won this game by 20 points, but there was there was an opportunity there for Washington to cut that thing to a one-score game late in the fourth quarter.
I mean, against a better team, it could turn out differently.
Yes.
Particularly Washington comes out and goes right down the field and scores, and then you quickly give the ball back after about 90 seconds. Like, that was concerning. I tell you what, I appreciated and applauded his Matt Eberflus's aggressiveness in the first half with his defense. And then you started to see him drop into that shell a lot to start that second half. Again, I understand, you got Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin. You got a lot of guys that you don't want to let beat a banged up secondary. But they didn't do it for the entire first half. You know what I'm saying? Stay aggressive, at least until the end of the third quarter. It's just that it was too early to start going into the shell defense that they did. I understand offensively not wanting to take the risk, but they needed to stay more aggressive on the defensive side of the ball.
And look, so you got to win. The losing streak's over. You're 1-4. Matt Eberflus isn't getting fired today. We talked about that on our last show. Would that be on the table if they dropped to 0-5? Where are we at?
They might have left him on the tarmac if
they might have left him in DC
if they blew that game last night.
Where are we at with this head coach and this coaching staff? Is this, in your mind, Kyle? Are they just buying themselves a little more time? What has to happen here, for you to feel confident in this coaching staff moving forward outside of just picking up one win?
Well, the thing last night compared to Sunday is the coaching staff's aggressiveness, their game. Sunday was a disaster from a game management perspective. It was one of the worst I can remember in recent Bears history. I mean, am I getting more games like that, last night? I'm not saying winning games. Going into the year, I expected this to be a 7, 8, maybe 9 win team. All of a sudden, I don't know. I guess that's what I'm saying.
We don't know. Yeah.
I've now seen 2 such extremes because that was really impressive last night.
There weren't many, if any, dumb decisions from the coaching staff.
The decision making was good. The fact that they had their guys to go really banged up, 27-3 at halftime, with your defense banged up the way it was really impressive. And I honestly had thought he had completely lost the locker room. I just didn't see a way that I did not see last night coming in the fashion that the Bears played that game. There was not a scenario where I expected to see the Bears up 27-3.
No, I think that took everyone by surprise, how well that first half went, especially. And the offense was rolling. They scored 40 points last night. 40 points from the Bears for the first time in almost 3 years.
So, I mean, the thing is, you now have a long period. You got 9 days until your next football game.
Yeah,
now.
You got the Vikings coming up next. You win the next 2 games. I'm guessing Matt Eberflus is here for the rest of the year. You come out and you play poorly against Minnesota, it's going to go right back to calls for his job. So, I mean, this may just be a weekly conversation we're going to have the rest of the year.
Yeah, Matt Eberflus and the Bears, because of that 0-4 start, that's the position they put them. Yeah, that's the position they put themselves in. The expectation, I think, hasn't changed, right? they were, I think most people had them at that 7 to 9 win range. And I think, you never hear what their internal goals are.
Mhm.
But come on, like Ryan Poles has said, like this is more than a 1-year rebuild. Like they didn't expect to go out and win the Super Bowl this year. Like I'm guessing they expect 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 wins in that range themselves. So like if we're in December and that's still a possibility, then yeah, Matt Eberflus is here. But like I said, if they come out against the Vikings and it goes back to the way things looked, I still don't think he's going to be around much longer.
We were looking at this stretch after that Chiefs game, with the Broncos, the Commanders, the Vikings, the Raiders, and we were saying, Kyle, you got to pick up at least 1 or 2 wins in that 4-game stretch, and they got one here. Do I expect them to win all those games? Not necessarily. But these are winnable games on the schedule. You look at their schedule. Moving forward, outside the only team you're really like all that scared of is probably the Lions, because those guys are rolling right now. Everything else is winnable. And I think it's going to take a lot to get back to that 7-win total. I mean, we're talking about 6 more wins at this point, and you're really in the hole. But it's on the table. Like it's in the realm of possibility.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, let's jump off, Sean, so you can get riding on Chase Claypool and get out of there and get over to
Say
the
goodbye to
airport.
DC.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everyone who joined us this morning. One more time, make sure you go to shawlocal.com for all of our content. We'll have complete coverage from Halisol. Michael Dwojak will be over there today for us as Sean comes back from DC. Make sure you follow Sean on Twitter at Sean_Hammond, myself at Kyle Nabors. You can find all of our content at Bears_Insider as well. Of course, go to shawlocal.com. For Sean Hammond, I want to thank Jake Bartleson as well for joining us this morning. I'm Kyle Nabors. Everyone enjoy the weekend. We'll be back to talk with you guys next week.